Hi, this is Glenda and this is part 3 of our No Special Tools Christmas cards for children to make. This one is the lacy German star. You can make this out of lace or ribbon or even strips of paper. If you're adapting it for boys, they might like a metallic sort of ribbon to do it with. So we shall press on. You want 8 lengths about the same, 4.5 to 5 inches long. It just depends a little bit on the width of the material you're starting with. Once you've cut one, you can just line them up, cut them all to match. You can start with the ends already pointy on these, but you don't have to because you do trim it anyway. It's probably easiest to use a lace that's got the two edges the same. This one didn't, but it was a little bit harder to work with, so this is also something that may not work well for really young children. I think it might be a bit hard. You will need some sort of mat that their glue won't stick to, so a sheet of wax paper, some sort of surface. Don't just give them paper, because when they glue this and sit it down to dry, it's going to stick to the paper. So we want to end up with a fold like that, and I don't know any other way to describe it. Just bringing the edges together and making that loop. So bit of glue, put it down to dry, and then we'll trim these points. The points are actually the bit that makes the star, it's not the other way round. So we're bringing the two edges together, overlapping like that. Don't use too much glue or you'll end up in a horrible mess with the glue that shows, and you do need the quick drying craft glue for this. I think the PVA would take too long, it would just frustrate them and the ribbons would come undone. Obviously if adults are doing it, hot glue is good, although you could have issues with the glue showing. And if you let it go, it doesn't work. Okay, by the time you get to the end and get all the glue off your fingers, the first ones should be ready to trim. Don't forget, if you're cutting any sort of fabric, you need sharp scissors. The kids are going to get frustrated if you give them really poor quality scissors. So we're just trimming to make the point. If you're using lace, it's fairly forgiving. It doesn't have to be perfect matching points. If you've got a bit like this left over, don't worry, it'll just tuck in when we join them together. or you can snip it off. See, that one stuck to the table and came undone. Whereas hot glue wouldn't do that. So we'll just put that down as our first part of the star. You can trim this a little bit more when it's assembled if you need to. If they trim too much, they'll end up with no star left. What have I got? 2, 4, 6, 8. I must have done an extra one anyway. Okay, so we're just going to put a bit of glue on the side. And line them up. See how where that flap is? Just tuck it in underneath. You'll notice. You can, most of the instructions do say to start with your ribbon angled, but it's an extra step that you may or may not want to worry about. You can, I'm sure, search for German star and come up with many instructions for these. The last one you want glue on both sides. Just pop it in and push them together. And you will have to let it dry. I mean, it does only take 5 minutes or so, but if you don't let it dry it's going to keep falling apart. You can then add a button or a flower, something like that for the middle, and I've put a bit of leftover lace at the back of it, a couple of little stickers, and that's our lacy star. Okay, just one extra thought about these. You can also use them as a Christmas decoration if you wanted to put a ribbon loop on it, and if you wished you could maybe attach it to the card just with a little clip, and then the recipient would be able to take it off and use it on their tree. You could make them double-sided, so when they turn it over you had the same look on both sides. So if you just want to develop that idea a bit, then that's another suggestion. Okay, this suggestion is for an origami star. If the kids are up to origami, there's all sorts of shapes you can do. Christmas shapes, there are some trees, there are some stars. This is not true origami because you're going to have to glue it. You start with a 6 by 4 centimetre piece of paper. Now this is double that because I thought it might be a bit hard to see. You fold it in half, fold up the four corners, and you fold two of the corners up again. And you end up with a sort of a kite shape. This paper is a bit tricky to work with. It's a foil on one side. Then you take your 8 little segments that you've folded, and I am going to use glue dots because they're nice and easy for this. You can use double-sided tape. You can get glue dots in some of the discount shops. These ones do not tear. And you're going to line up 2 triangles on top of each other, like that. Take the next 2. Just work your way around. And the last one should just tuck under, so we want a dot on the bottom and a dot on the top. Now, if you've chosen ridiculously temperamental paper like I have, you'll probably need to put a dab of glue just to hold these little wings down. Okay, so on this paper I quite like the reverse side of it, but I think I will try it again with normal paper. Okay, I'm going to try this again with some more sensible paper. So we're folding in half, folding in the 4 corners, and folding in 2 of the corners again. It is useful to have something like a bone folder, which you can get fairly cheaply in craft shops, or just whatever you can come up with to just press those creases in. I'm going to use my glue dots again. Any left on there? Yes. And put one triangle over the other. I definitely wouldn't try this with young children. Keep it for older groups. I've found it to be quite fiddly. last one again, I want 2 dots. One on the back, one on the front, and tuck it in. Hopefully it all lines up, and that star sits a lot better. Some bling in the middle. You can either turn it into a decoration, you can use either side, as long as your glue dots don't show. And we're done. Okay, so here's the finished cards. I've used one star one way and one the other. I've used a bit of the wrapping paper for a background for that one. That's it. One suggestion for the origami star to get your creases nice and smooth is a craft stick or tongue depressor, or an icy pole stick that you can get at the craft shops, and that will just help them, probably the icy pole stick stronger, get the creases nice and firm. So the last suggestion in this part is quilling. With quilling there are heaps of instructions around for all sorts of things. You can do trees and bells and wreaths and everything. Little parcels there wouldn't be hard. There's lots of instructions. You could even have a group project where they all made little parts and did something really elaborate. I'm not sure if I'm cutting the top off that. I am. There we go. And I've knocked my water over. Anyway, you get the idea. There's lots of things around that you can do, and there's plenty of instructions out there. You will need some quilling paper. I had got this years ago. I think it was printers offcuts. So where they were guillotining their paper, they had all these little bits, so it was all pre-cut. You can buy quilling paper. This one I think I got for free, but it was $2.50 for 20 strips, so that's going to add up pretty quick. Or you can cut your own. You want it about 1/2 centimetre, certainly no more, and even a little bit less wouldn't hurt, but for young people just starting, 1/2 centimetre is not a bad size. For these little bells, you know, you can do little tags, you can do cards. The stamping actually went a little bit wrong in that, bit of bling, and who's going to know except that I told you. So for the bell, you are going to want, 12 inches is usually about as big as you can get paper. So all I've done is stick 2 bits together. You will want a quick drying adhesive white glue for this because you pretty much have to keep holding it until it's stuck. So, you know, they're just going to go mad if they haven't got a quick drying glue. The other thing you're going to need is a quilling tool. The best option is a purchase tool. They run to a fair bit of money. There's all sorts out there, but they're basically all a metal pin with a little split in it to hold the paper. If you can't get that, bamboo skewer. If you cut the pointy bits off, it's fraction safer for the kids. It's going to be a bit thicker in the middle. When I used to use these before quilling tools existed, I shaved the end of them to make them a finer point to wrap, so you got less of a hole, because that's the smallest hole you're going to get from this stick. It just depends if you want to do a bit of prep, and they may snap them if you do shave them. And this is not going to be one for really little children. They're not going to manage it. If you dip the end in water, it'll just hold its shape a fraction more, because you want it to hold that curl in the middle. We're just going to wind it around. You want it fairly tight because you want it to hold the shape. take it off and make sure it's all even, and then you let it go. So you want it to be fairly loose, and that's going to be the size of your bell. Tiny bit of glue, and just hold it till it dries. You will need something for them to work on. You can use again wax paper, or this that I used to use was baking sheet. Actually, yeah, I think that's what it was. Just something that won't stick when they put their pieces down to dry. So once that's stuck, you want to push, this is going to be the tricky bit for them, to push in and make a point on either side of that. And then you sort of gently point this end. If they're a little bit too pointy, they're just going to look a bit more modern, that's all. But as I said, there's all sorts of quilling you can do. It's a year-round thing you can do as well. So then for the other piece, you probably only want about 6 inches. For the life of me, I can't think of what that round bit's called. The ringy bit. So this time you're going to keep it tight, not let it go. Using the PVA, the bits you get on it will just dry clear, you won't see them. This is a fairly thin PVA, it's lovely glue. I think I had to get it online because none of my local shops were selling it, but it may even, because it's such a nice glue to use, it may even be worth getting it ahead online. So there's my bell. If you want to do a little leaf, I'm not sure why these bells have leaves, but these particular ones do. That's, I don't know, about 5 inches. We'll dip this one in the water again, just the end of it. Again, roll it tightly. Take it off, make sure it's flat, let it go. Which I probably should have used a longer one. Stick that together, and we're just going to pinch one end, not both. But a lot of the quilling shapes are all based on simply rolling and then pinching it out in various ways. To attach this, all you do is very carefully lift it, decide which is the nicest side, glue in just a few little spots and pop it down. Oops, my leaf has come undone. For the tags, you can simply cut your own out of manila folders and angle the ends. I've used a punch on this, but you don't have to do that. You can just snip it with scissors. Oh, do not use that much glue. Oh, now it looks like it's got ears. one trick for cutting your tags. Cut one corner off, hold it against the other, cut the same, and then they'll match, and then you punch your hole. So that's quilling. As I say, there's heaps of different shapes you can do. Once you, if you were going to run it for a few weeks, it could even be worth having tools. It just depends how many students you've got, in what price you can get them for. You can get little wooden handled ones that aren't as expensive. So that's the end of this part, and I may take a little break before I do part 4. Thanks for watching.